Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming. Good morning, very good morning, and welcome to Hackaday Securing Identity. What I hope today is to dive into identity theft issues. Be careful there. And how I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it and divide into two parts. The first part, what I wish to talk about is from a macro perspective. 2024, I think everyone would agree, has been a major disruptions from a big ransomware operation perspective. In total, there has been 27 ransomware group that has been disrupted. We all know the reason why. And consequently, smaller scale, medium-sized type of ransomware operation has been born. Consequently, a number of leak sites has increased as well. So why do we need to know about this? And what does that mean to you and I as a security professions? A major disruption of ransomware group. What does that mean to all of us here? The affiliates. There's been new TTPs. The affiliates are actually looking for alternative means in increasing their chance of success. And what we saw, the new ways of attack, in particular focusing on identity-based type of attack. So think about the past, a big ransomware group, structured, SOP, now has been disrupted. A lot more affiliates came out and started doing their own ways, looking for quick means. And we saw a lot more attacks based on identity. So that's the macro side, the shift of some of the new techniques. What about on the micro? I want to go deeper into what's the definition of identity. Using myself as an example, I'm a founder of Dark Lab, Hackaday. I'm a Malaysian. I'm a father of two, and I'm a wine lover. Join me for a glass of wine later. That's my identity. That's my story in the real world. What about in the digital world? A lot of you would have thought identity refers to username, password, multi-factor authentication. Is that all? Not quite. Actually, there are a lot more attributes for the identity in the digital world. For examples, they are like user access locations, user access device, behavior, access tokens, cookies. These are all the important attributes in the digital identity. And the question is that, are all of us spending enough effort and resources in protecting these informations? If not, the switch of macro, and if we overlook on these important identity attributes, that leads to a series of incident response work done by Dark Lab in 2024. We have learned a lot this year. The impact over this victim are still the same. Can be ransomware, can be data theft. But the underlying root cause is different. Slightly a twist. In the past, we saw weaponization over the CVE. That's the typical TTP that we picked up. Today, we see a lot more sophisticated phishing, in particular over unmanaged devices, API stolen keys, classic compromised credential from the dark web, reuse of third-party service provider access. These are some of the root causes that we picked up over the incident response work that we did. This is only a snapshot that we picked up. We did a lot more incident response work throughout the year. But these are the key root causes that we picked up. I would like to summarize into 3 key lessons learned. Number 1, weaponization of CVE, like I mentioned. But the weaponization of CVE now slightly differ. Weaponization of CVE with the aim to harvest the credential or bypassing identity. That's number 1 lesson learned. Number 2, again classic. Compromised credential for the dark web. The threat actor harvested the credential and logged into the exposed portal. Number 3, more sophisticated phishing. AiTM, adversary in the middle, impersonating trusted brands in Hong Kong with the aim to steal the access token. And the AiTM has the ability to bypass MFA. I will dissect each of these lessons learned for you. Number 1, weaponizations of CVE, focusing on bypassing the identity. Typical attack method. Threat actors scan throughout the internet, found the CVE, exploit. Get hold of the encrypted file, decrypt brute force. Subsequently, standard procedures. Plant a persistent, privilege escalate, lateral movement, eventually ransomware. In terms of numbers, we saw this sort of CVE in terms of the increase, 57%. So again, a lesson learned, patch, guys, patch, especially internet facing. If you don't patch now, they will exploit. And again, this sort of CVE is targeting the usual suspects that we're all familiar. SSL VPN, firewall, MDM, cloud services. These are all the usual suspects that we picked up. Again, exploitation of CVE, focusing on identity. Again, guys, patch quickly. Second, like I mentioned, the classic, compromised credential from the dark web. Harvested, found the exposed login portals, and then logged in. Very easy. Why do we still have exposed portal? Again, shut down when we don't need exposed portal. From numbers perspective, there has been 37% in terms of infostealer targeting Hong Kong. I would explain what is infostealer later. Infostealer, what we picked up, infostealer has been targeting Hong Kong, and we saw 37% of increase. But what interesting that we picked up also, in terms of the price of the credentials sold in dark web, if you look at the money, the monetary increase, look at the numbers, significant increase. Our dark web interpretation is 2 reasons. First, the type of access sold in the dark web is gone deeper to the network. For example, domain admin sold on the dark web. Obviously, the price will be higher. And second, the background of the company in terms of revenue or number of employees. That means bigger scale size of company has fallen as a victim also. In terms of credential leak in Hong Kong, look at the numbers here, guys. Comparatively last year and this year, a number of credential leaked on the dark web double up. 4.7 to 8.9. That means number of passwords, your users, including maybe yourself, the passwords leaked on the dark web increased by double. And on your right, it's just a snippets of some of those credentials that we harvested from the dark web. Okay? Infostealer. Remember I mentioned infostealer in terms of the victims in Hong Kong, 37% increase. So how does this infostealer work? In terms of delivery, typical techniques, through phishing, malicious acts, malicious software. Say, for example, it's a malicious software. A user downloaded a malicious software, installed, planted a persistent. An infostealer will start harvesting identity information, password, cookies, credit card information, behavior, browsing history, etc. Package, exfiltrate, and then sell on the dark web. That's how infostealer work. Maybe many of you will be wondering, I invested on an EDR. Can EDR prevent this issue? And the answer is yes. EDR can block the infostealer. But why is still harming Hong Kong? Two reasons. We saw the infostealer was planted on an unmanaged devices. Unmanaged devices, guys. So we need to ask ourselves questions. How many more unmanaged devices that we have in our environment today? The other scenario that we picked up, the infostealer was planted on a home PC. So your user went back home, planted with an infostealer, lost his or her identity information, harvested by the threat actors, and further come back to the corporate environment. Again, home PC is considered as a unmanaged device as well. So that's how infostealer works. Again, there has been 37% increase in Hong Kong. That caused the double up of the credentials in the dark web. Number 3, AiTM. Just now I mentioned, phishing is not new, I think everyone knows, but this phishing method able to bypass the MFA control that we used to know, like an authenticator, like an SMS OTP. And we saw there's been significant rise of AiTM targeting Hong Kong, impersonating the famous brands in Hong Kong, such as YUU, such as Mannings, such as Hong Kong e-tolls. These are the brands that we saw the AiTM is targeting. And AiTM is powerful enough to mainly to target the SaaS cloud resources. Because of these sophistications, I actually prepared a short demo, a video, to demonstrate to you how AiTM works. Remember, AiTM is a phishing technique. If you look at the screen, a user browsing through his or her inbox, going through the email, okay, finding interesting things, eventually found maybe an O365, M365 relevant, okay, double-click on that link, and you will divert to the actual site, actual M365 site. And as a per user, you will enter your username, and of course, you will enter your password as well as part of your authentication method. And of course, the MFA. Remember this screen. Use a mobile 90, you press, and the user goes to the actual M365 site. But what about from a hacker perspective? Look at the screen here. On the right-hand side, the black color is actually a reverse proxy that's been planted on as part of phishing. So the threat actors actually can steal the information in between. Remember, adversary in the middle. On your left-hand side, the white screen, you start harvesting the informations from the proxy and steal the token. Remember, after the MFA has been authenticated, steal the token, generate more tokens, put into a new tool on the left-hand side, and then to understand what other M365 resources they are, and eventually can go to the SharePoint, can go to the OneDrive, can go to the mailbox, and start reading information. And all this can be done through scripting and tools. Very simple. Again, AiTM. The user can feel exactly the same experience. It diverted into the actual M365 sites. But in between, there's been planted a reverse proxy. And the aim is to steal information in between, such as token, like I mentioned. So we know these are new techniques in Hong Kong that causes the rise of the credential leak. So how to prevent or detect this? From a preventive perspective, you can restrict the use of the token only on the device that they will issue. Let me explain this a little bit. If you remember just now the user, they were logging in from the PC, and the token supposed to issue on that particular computer. However, the threat actor using a reverse proxy and able to harvest the token and use on another device. You see, it's totally two devices. The token issue on the first device is supposed to remain there. They are the ways that you can configure. This is as part of the token protection that you can enable. More importantly, I always suggest this control. Only allow managed devices to access your cloud resources. Again, look at the scenario. The user using a managed device, log in, but went through a reverse proxy, and the token was harvested by the threat actor and logged in from an unmanaged device. That device is not managed by the company. So only allow managed devices to log into your cloud resources. That's a very important control. From a detection perspective, focus on the risky access. Think about that scenario again. The user logged in from the PC, say for example from Hong Kong, and the token was harvested by the threat actors and logged in, could be from another country, say maybe US. 5 minutes later, that's impossible travel. How can a user travel from Hong Kong to US within 5 minutes? That's worth looking into it. That's from a detection perspective. And of course, you can send some notification to the original user if there's a new logged in from other countries or there's a new device being registered. So hopefully the user is aware of, oh, I have not done this, and can further escalate. I hope everyone enjoyed the sessions. Just a quick recap. I talked about from the macro perspective, we saw there's a switch of attack as a result of major disruption of ransomware. And again, we saw there's omission or some of the protection over the identity attributes. That forms the new ways of attacks that we see. I've dissected a few root causes. Some of those, you go back to our traditional or day-to-day what we need to do, patching. Limit the unexposed portal. Enable MFA. More importantly, just now I show everyone, the AiTM, the more sophisticated attack, they're able to bypass the MFA. You have to go into managed devices and go into detections. Again, I hope everyone finds the sessions helpful and hope you all can use this information to enhance your security architecture. I'll be continue to mingle here today. I hope everyone enjoy Hacker Day, and thank you.